Good afternoon. A few days ago, I read an article on the BBC News app about Instagram photo filters, which was a new thing to me. I've never even looked at Instagram, and I don't do any social media. So these are things that people use to alter the photos that they post on their Instagram account. For example, they can make their nose look smaller, their skin more brown, tan, and their skin more perfect, free of blemishes. So apparently this trend is used a lot, and it has had repercussions for people's sense of self-worth and self-confidence, especially for young women. So a survey done among girls and young women from between the ages of 11 and 21 showed that a third of them will not post selfies on Instagram without using a filter. And 39% of these women surveyed felt upset that they didn't look the same in real life as they did online. So one young woman in England, who herself is a model and a makeup artist, has become concerned about this trend and started an online campaign encouraging people to post unfiltered photos and to value who they are above what they look like. And many women, in response to her, she actually started a hashtag, is that what you call it? Called filter drop. So many people have responded to this and posted unfiltered photos of themselves. But one said that doing this was scarier than having a baby. So they're actually, frightened of showing their real face, how they really look. And another woman who's a teacher reported that one of her students, a 4-year-old girl who had started watching makeup tutorials on social media, began to dislike her face without makeup. She felt she needed to, can you imagine that? 4 years old, she already feels she needs to wear makeup in order to make herself attractive. I find that really, really sad, really tragic. But I know that suffering myself because when I was a teenager, I was terribly unhappy about the fact that no matter what I did, I couldn't get myself to look like the actresses on TV, the models in 17 magazine, the surfer girls on the covers of the Beach Boys albums. Probably many of you don't know the Beach Boys, but anyway, surfer girl, that was the big thing in those days. And I'm not really sure why it was such a big issue for me, but probably I thought that's what you needed in order to be loved and and accepted and to have a happy, successful life. And clearly this is not the case. And even back then, I had a friend who was short and fat. She had a pug nose and crooked teeth, but she didn't seem to care about her look. She was still a very happy person, very confident and outgoing. So it's definitely not something that affects everybody, but some. Anyway, it seems to be a big problem nowadays with all this social media and people changing their photos, making themselves look much more attractive than they really are. And then others see those and compare themselves and feel, uglier than they really are. So what does Buddhism say about beauty? It seems that the Buddha did acknowledge its importance in ordinary human relationships. One of the sutras that Bhikkhu Bodhi told me about when I wrote to him and asked what the Buddha said about women, the sutra is called the Matugama Sutra, and it's sort of a collection of many different things that the Buddha said about women. So in one part of that sutra, he mentioned 5 factors that make a woman extremely agreeable to a man. If she is beautiful, wealthy, virtuous, clever and industrious, and begets children. So when a woman possesses these 5 factors, she is extremely agreeable to a man. But he didn't say this only about women. He said it about men too. So he said that he gave the same 5 factors that make a man extremely agreeable to a woman, just replacing beautiful with handsome. So my take on this is he's just simply pointing out how things are in the world, conventional reality, that people are concerned about beauty or attractiveness. And on the other hand, he gave plenty of advice, especially to the monks and nuns, about not being concerned about beauty, attractiveness, and overcoming that attachment to beauty, attachment to attractiveness, by contemplating the unattractive or foul nature of the human body. When you really look carefully at what the body is made of, even the most beautiful, gorgeous body, you look carefully at what's there, and you can't really find anything that's attractive. But I think, on the other hand, being attractive rather than horribly ugly is an asset for those of us who want to benefit others, for example, by teaching the Dharma, because we want people to be comfortable in our presence and, want to be around us, and we don't want to scare them away. So there's benefit in having attractiveness. It doesn't have to be gorgeous beauty, but at least attractive. And it said that the karmic cause of beauty is the practice of patience or fortitude. And this is one of the 6 perfections that we have to practice on the Bodhisattva's path, and also the path to liberation, to nirvana. It's necessary to overcome anger with patience. So when we practice patience, we are creating the cause to be attractive, whether we want to be or not. So it's good to learn how not to be attached to physical beauty, because that just leads to suffering. And I think that one of the best ways to overcome that kind of attachment is by contemplating impermanence. Beauty simply doesn't last. And this is illustrated in some of the stories of Buddha's female disciples. So one of his disciples was a woman named Amrapali or Amrapali. There's different versions of her name. And she was said to be so extraordinarily beautiful that she was made the official courtesan of Vaisali. And in the book, The First Buddhist Women, Susan Murcott explained the difference between a courtesan, I'm not sure how to say it, and a prostitute. A prostitute was often low caste and would offer their body for indiscriminate sexual intercourse. So it's kind of similar to present-day hookers or streetwalkers. They didn't earn much money and didn't receive much respect. It was a lowly position. Courtesans, on the other hand, were a special type of prostitute whose clientele was drawn from the court or wealthy class. So she said it's maybe like the present-day call girl. And some cities even had a state-installed courtesan. And they were able to amass large fortunes and even have other women working for them. So that was the case with this woman, Amrapali. It said she was so astonishingly beautiful that princes fought to possess her. I read one story where she was actually going to get married, and there was another man who was so, in love with her, attracted to her, that he killed her husband-to-be. And so because people were fighting over her, they decided to make her I wonder if she had any choice about this, the chief courtesan of Vaisali. This is one of the cities where the Buddha spent time. And in fact, I think it's where he gave the third turning of the wheel, started in Vaisali. And because of her, Vaisali was said to have become very prosperous. Maybe people were attracted to move to Vaisali just to have a chance to look at her. Anyway, she met the Buddha just a short time before his parinirvana, so he was already in his late 70s, and immediately became very devoted. And it said that she attained the 3rd stage of sainthood, which is the stage of the non-returner on the way to Arhat, after listening to his teaching. And then she became an Arhat after he passed away. And it's not clear in this book whether or not she was a nun, but I did read in another book that she did become a nun. But of course, she gave up her livelihood to do that. And in fact, it said, I think after becoming a disciple of the Buddha, she stopped her business. And she was also a benefactor. She donated a mango grove for use by the Buddha and his followers. So in this book is her poem or story, poem or song, which is quite long. I won't read all of it, but it consists of many verses where she talks about what she used to look like, her former beauty, and how she looked later in her life when she was old. And so it's a good illustration of the impermanence of beauty and how it doesn't make sense to be attached to it. So she says, my hair was black and curly, the color of black bees. Now that I'm old, it is like the hemp of trees. This is the teaching of one who speaks truth. Fragrant as a scented oak, I wore flowers in my hair. Now, because of old age, it smells like dog's hair. This is the teaching of one who speaks truth. My eyes flashed like jewels, long, black. Now they don't make anyone look back. This is the teaching of one who speaks truth. My teeth were beautiful, the color of plantain buds. Now, because of old age, they are broken and yellow. This is the teaching of one who speaks truth. My hands were beautiful, set off by rings, gold as the sun. Now, because of old age, they are radishes or onions. This is the teaching of one who speaks truth. So it goes on and on and on like this. But then at the end, she says, my feet were beautiful, delicate as if filled with cotton. Now, because of old age, they are cracked and rotten. This is the teaching of one who speaks truth. This is how my body was. Now it is dilapidated, the place of pain, an old house with a plaster falling off. So the global beauty industry is worth more than $500 billion per year. And just in the United States, people spent $93.5 billion in 2019. That's a lot of money. And does this make sense, given that beauty is not the cause of genuine happiness, given that no matter how much time, energy, and money we put into enhancing and prolonging physical attractiveness, it won't last? And in fact, it's changing and disintegrating every moment, every day, and there's nothing we can do about that. So it's much more wise to accept ourselves as we are, including our bodies, and value the mind more than the body, since the mind does last way beyond death, and it's the main thing responsible for genuine happiness and well-being, and of course, eventually, our attainment of higher states of mind like liberation and enlightenment. And those billions of dollars could be used for things that are much more worthwhile and beneficial, feeding the hungry, providing homes for homeless, education for children who don't have access to it, and so on. And put much more of our time and energy into cultivating inner beauty, qualities like compassion, loving kindness, patience, contentment, and wisdom.